Nowadays, it seems like everywhere you go, someone's telling you that you need a newer camera or a sharper lens or more expensive gear. And the truth is, a lot of the things you hear about photography nowadays is just flat out wrong. So today I'm gonna break down some of the biggest lies in photography and what actually matters if you're looking to take some better photos. So let's get into it. What's going on, guys? My name is Alex Ralph, and if you haven't been here before, welcome to the channel. Hit that like button if you like what you see. Maybe consider subscribing. I usually make videos about I mostly just ramble, honestly, but I try to be informative. I try to make some tutorials and stuff that I would have liked to learn, would have liked to have learned somewhere along the way in my journey in photography. So I hope this helps, guys. I hope you like it. Check it out. Big lie number one in photography is gear doesn't matter, or conversely, gear does matter. It kind of works on a case-by-case basis. You've probably heard both sides of this debate, and the truth is, for some people, all they'll ever need is one camera and one lens, and they'll be perfectly fine. But for other people, they might be working on more complicated projects, or just their style of photography requires them to have a main camera and a B camera and a couple of lenses, a telephoto, a wide angle, a macro, and some lights lying around. It all just depends on your style, your workflow, and the type of photography that you do. For example, I've got a home studio behind me here, and it's nice, and I do mostly portraits, and I could get by with nothing but one camera and maybe a 24-70. But I need lighting, I need softboxes. I don't necessarily need variety in the type of light diffusion that I have, but if I didn't, then the photos would get kind of stale after a while. It's one thing to have your own style, it's another to just kind of do the same thing over and over again. So for someone like me, I do need a couple of more accessories just to have at my disposal, because otherwise it's the same photo every single time, essentially. Whereas if you're shooting with a camera and a lens and you're mostly doing outdoor type photography with natural lighting, everywhere you go, you're getting different lighting scenarios, you're getting a different background, you're getting a different vibe to the photo. So you don't necessarily need as much variety in your accessories as I have. I also do some product work, in which case maybe I'll need a macro lens or something like that to really focus in on the details. So again, accessories for that type of work. Whereas if you're maybe a landscape photographer, a wide angle lens, a tripod, maybe a neutral density filter, what else really? Or a polarizer, I suppose, but minimal, you know? The problem is gas. I have gas, which is gear acquisition syndrome, and a lot of us are guilty of this, believe me. So you want to get more toys, more cameras, more lenses, more accessories, but it doesn't always really matter. You don't need all those things to be taken seriously as a photographer. It's one thing to want them, and that's fine, but don't think that you need to get that next thing to make your photos better, or for someone to think that you're a legitimate photographer. Nothing will legitimize your work more than your work. But again, if you need a couple of things along the way to enhance your work, that's fine too. Again, it's a case-by-case situation. Gear doesn't have to matter, but it can help depending on what you're shooting. So essentially, neither one of these positions is wrong. The only thing that really matters is knowing what you need to do and understanding what you need to get that done. Also, not letting people's judgments influence your decisions and how you go about being, you. Big lie number two, you need to shoot in manual mode to be a real photographer. And you might have heard that somewhere along the way, but what is a real photographer? You have a camera and you're taking photos and you enjoy taking photos. Or I'll say it like this, if you take photos with purpose, then you're a photographer. If you bought a camera, you're just kind of snapping family pics and stuff, you're just someone who has a camera. But if you take photos with purpose, you pay attention to composition, to lighting, to shadows, you're a photographer. There's no such thing as a real photographer. And moreover, there's no rule that says you need to shoot in manual mode. Don't get me wrong, you should absolutely learn how to shoot in manual mode, but it doesn't mean that you're confined to just that one setting. In a real world scenario, there's other settings there at your disposal so that you can utilize those. And a real photographer would know when to shoot in manual and when to shoot in something else. Maybe aperture priority or shutter priority. Say you're shooting sports and you need a fast shutter speed to make sure that the athlete that you're photographing doesn't look blurry as he's running across the field. Or maybe you're shooting wildlife, maybe birds, and you want to make sure you have a blurry background. You want to make sure that your aperture stays at a constant 2.8 or an f4, whatever the case is, even if you might need to change your shutter speed to properly expose. In which case, instances like that, you have split-second decisions where athletes are running or birds are flying. You can't fiddle with all of the settings. So why wouldn't you use these semi-automatic modes to help you get the photo? Being a real photographer isn't about shooting in manual mode. It's about knowing what settings you need to use to get the shot. It's about understanding all of the capabilities of your camera, not limiting yourself to this one detail, this one myth that's kind of floating around on the internet out there. But again, you should learn manual mode. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely learn how to use manual mode and then make your decision based off that. Big lie number 3. This one really bothers me. This one grinds my gears, is that editing is cheating. And I don't know where this came from, but why is editing cheating? How does editing a photo make it any less legitimate? It's a photo. You took the photo. It's your photo, and you're bringing your creative vision to life through editing. And I'm pretty sure it has some roots in like purists of photography that go back to thinking they're stuck in this kind of mindset of like the old days where guys used to, I guess develop their own film, but they would dodge and burn their film as well. They would do real-time editing. And granted, it was more of a, I wouldn't even say it was more of a process, but maybe more of a strenuous process, because you had to really physically be there with the image and kind of paint it out manually or physically, as opposed to dodging and painting on your computer screen. But even still, it's not about the process per se. It's about bringing your creative. It's about bringing out your creative, or rather your creativity. Why was I so tongue-tied on that? Now, all that being said, if you're the type of person that takes a photo with the intent of fixing it in post, that's kind of a gray area. The idea should never be to fix it in post. It should just be to enhance it in post. You want to get it as good as you can straight out of camera, and then use your tools to enhance it, to make it look the way you want it to look, to make it your shot, your image, your photograph. And sometimes you have to fix it, but you can't just run and gun everything with the idea that we'll fix it in post. You again, it's about shooting with purpose. So long as you're not always thinking about fixing it in post, I'm perfectly fine with that. Get it right in camera, enhance it in post. Fair enough, right? Big lie number 4 is natural light is always best. Again, we're talking about the purists here. Natural light is great. I love shooting in natural light, but is it always best? Come on now. Natural light is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but the idea that it's always better is just wrong. It's all subjective, and we all have our preferences. With natural light, the world is your canvas. You get to experiment and really put your skills to the test with changing light conditions and different backdrops across the city or the forest or wherever it is you might be shooting. Whereas with artificial light, you have more control and you can create depth and character in your images. So it really just comes down to figuring out what your preference is and how you want to utilize that, or maybe even just what that particular project you're on calls for. But one is not necessarily better than the other. Big lie number 5 is more megapixels equals better photos. And camera companies love selling you on more megapixels. But really, unless you're printing out like massive billboards or something like that, then like 20, 24 megapixels, that's more than enough. I mean, I still shoot on cameras that nowadays are considered dinosaurs. Like this here, my 5D Mark IV. This thing is what, 10 years old now, something like that? And I can't tell the difference between this and something shot on a 2025 R6 Mark II mirrorless camera body with 5,700 friggin' megapixels or whatever the case is. It's fine. No one cares. In fact, I can't even tell you how many times people have said to me, wow, your camera takes such nice photos, which is very rude if you really think about it. The camera's not taking the photo, I am. But still, the point is, they think the camera is the one producing these images. Little do they know, I'm using a dinosaur. And what it comes down to is this. It's not about the megapixels. It's not about the camera. It's about the person behind it and understanding the fundamentals of photography. More megapixels is fine and dandy and cool, not without its downsides, but we'll save that for another video. You need to know how to use your tools, how to use your gear, and all the rest is just nonsense. So all that to say, next time you hear somebody say you need a new camera, you're not a real photographer, just remember photography isn't about hard set rules or about hype or about, fancy gear. It's about telling your story with the tools you already have. If you found any value in this video or if it helped clear up any of the noise out there, then hit that like button and consider subscribing. I got a lot more no bullshit advice coming your way. Well, some of it might be bullshit, but that's fine. It's a work in progress. We're working our way through it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.